If you don't like the way the world is, what you need to do is actually stop participating in the world in the way that it is.
Welcome to our latest video. Today we are going to talk about the infinite, the eternal soul, who you really are, where you come from, what you are, all those sorts of things. But we're going to talk about it maybe not in a scientific way, maybe in a layperson's kind of way, because that's the way I know it. And that's the way I can tell it to you. It all actually started, I was having a conversation with my son, and he was regaling me with the work of a philosopher. And this philosopher or scientist or person, this intellectual's assertion is that we are all part of an infinite. And that when we as two individuals get together, we actually cause a discourse within the infinite. Now, my son and I discussed this. I told him what I thought that meant. He told me what he thought that meant. And then we discussed what we actually think. And in a lot of what my son told me about, makes a lot of sense with the things that I see. And very, very often when I tell people what I see and how I see the other side, I will explain it to them in this way. And for those who actually have a science background, I think it makes sense to them, or it helps them in some sort of way. Now, I have no science background at all. I have an English degree, actually. And I find myself much, much more attracted to history and words and things such as that. I find that it's probably a little block in my own brain where I am a young woman of a certain age when education was presented to me as though words and ideas were more what I needed to look at rather than mathematics and science. Now, I'm not going to blame the education system for my lack of math or science, but I am. Anywho, so how do I see the other side? How do they show it to me that could be construed in a scientific-y kind of way? Oh, well, I didn't even realize that what I was seeing was scientific-y, was being shown to me in a science fashion. Let's put it that way. So I have always seen the other side a certain way. People on the other side will show me the other side as though their family, their blood-related family, and you adopted kids, that adoption, not blood-related thing, that's kind of a here thing more than it is another side thing. Yes, you do have blood relations that you are connected to because you are connected through your blood and through your genetics, but because you're adopted into another family, you create the connection. Now, the connection. So each family resides in what I call a pod. And I call them pods. They remind me, and did remind me when I first started, of campgrounds. Now, being from British Columbia, our provincial campgrounds have little spaces for each camping family or group. And those spaces are actually connected with pathways that go through the woods or direct pathways. So each campground is somewhat connected. Now, that's actually how I see the other side. Each family is in a pod. And then from that pod, when some member of that family gets married, they create a rod. Or I used to see like suspension bridges to another family pod, because you're linking one family to another, and then creating another link and a whole new pod. because then you create children, and then on and on and on it goes. And the first time I saw a DNA helix, I said, holy Christmas, that's the other side. That's the pods and the links and the pod and the link.
It would be my opinion that when we see a DNA helix, it is actually a reflection of the other side. And the other side is somewhat a reflection of what we see as DNA. That imprint, and honestly, I cannot use the correct scientific term, so I'm not even going to try, because I don't really know them. So what I understand about DNA is that people share DNA, but each individual has an individual marker of DNA. So to my mind, DNA is an example of your psychic abilities, that your psychic abilities are somewhat encapsulated within your family tree. But at the same time, those psychic abilities are something that is shared by everyone, just like your DNA, and links you to each and every human being on the planet, just like DNA in its own kind of way. Hope that makes sense. Further to this idea that we all are actually connected to a certain group of people through blood, and those people are connected through other people, and connected and connected and connected. We can go through the idea of the collective consciousness, this idea that actually each and every human being sitting on this earth right now is connected to each and every human being on this earth, and also connected to a collective ideology or a collective consciousness or a collective way of thinking. Now, if you think about that in even a bigger way, if we think about the fact that every thought you have, every feeling that goes with that thought actually becomes a reality in your world, then if all of us are thinking one thing, if all of us think of things in a certain kind of way, are we not creating the reality that we are experiencing? And if that is true, that we are actually creating the reality that we are experiencing, could we not, as a collective, recreate the reality that we have to experience? So, under that idea that we as a collective actually create the reality that we experience, every time we do something because that's what people do, or that's the way the world is, or I gotta be that way, or they're gonna be that way, we're actually creating that reality. We're creating that most likely negative experience. So what might you want to do to combat that? Combat, is that the right word to say? To move with that, to change that, to transform that reality. You might want to start thinking better. You might want to start looking at your reality as though it is something you actually can change. That to give in to the negative realities that you think exist regardless of how you think, feel, or act might actually be completely and absolutely untrue. The way you think, feel, and act might be contributing to that negative reality that you're experiencing. If you don't like the way the world is, what you need to do is actually stop participating in the world in the way that it is. If you want peace, harmony, love, and acceptance, start practicing it. Because the more you practice it, the more you will experience it. And the more of it that you will actually generate into the world. Good emotions, good feelings, good thoughts, and good intentions are actually things that will bring more good to you. The key word is good. When you feel good, you see more good. When you do good, you experience more good. It's what is inside of you. And if you are experiencing the opposite, if you are finding that when I do good, I do not receive good, then quite possibly you might want to be putting something a little bit different into the collective consciousness. I don't know if that makes sense. Do you think that makes sense for you? I think it would make a little bit more sense to say that we are all connected to each other. And just listening to this kitty cat purr is calming me, helping me, making me feel a little bit more loved and a little bit looked after. And hopefully hopefully my petting her makes her feel good, makes her feel protected, and makes her feel calmer, and makes her feel looked after, because she is giving me something and I am in turn giving her something. Because we are connected, because we're living beings and we're both on this funny little ball. Making a conscious decision to not accept a negative reality could actually help you to change the reality you're experiencing, to believe with every fiber of your being that what you think, what you feel, what you do will actually help you, will help the collective, will help all people. That gives you actual, real, and true power. Right, Frigga? Frigga thinks so. Consciously making decisions to create your own reality will help you to consciously help all human beings. And consciously making the decision to help create your own reality is you consciously making the decision to be happier, or to be more fulfilled, or to do something different for yourself.
The reality that you experience is the reality that you create for yourself. But at the same time, you are part of a collective, and each individual in that collective is creating a reality for themselves. So their realities that they create actually infringe or disrupt the reality that you've created, because they actually meet and affect each other, because each time each individual meets, an energetic trail is created. Each time an individual interacts with another individual, they create energy, because each individual is energy. And we just don't see it because we're in these little meat suits that actually contain visually our energy, but does not contain our energy in all ways. And you all know that because you've all walked into a room, for goodness sakes, and you can feel the energy of a room. So the reality that you create needs to actually reflect the reality that you would like to see all others create as well, so that as a collective, we can get out of this toxic soup that we put ourselves in. When people tell you that the world is crap and people are crap and survival of the fittest and blah, 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 they are creating a reality that creates that reality for you. So see your reality as different, and you might actually experience a different time down here. Maybe. Hopefully. Let's hope. Let's start now. I'm Bobby Roundtree Born Medium, and you can find me here on my channel because you might want to subscribe, or you can find me on Instagram at Bobby Roundtree Born Medium, or on Facebook at Bobby Roundtree Spiritual Medium. Find me, and maybe we can discuss your reality. Namaste.